what's happening in the libraries in WLS since this pandemic is affecting us so much. So I will deal with the issue of reopening. Tell a little bit about what's happening with the WLS headquarters. I'll touch a little bit on the cataloging and some statement that we made on racism. And then I'll talk about the finances and the prospect of state and county assistance to our libraries. And then I'll end by a few words on the audit report. So on the reopening, over the past few weeks, most of the member libraries have started to provide contactless services. That is it is often the curbside delivery that allows patrons to place holds and pick up items at their home library. To support these contactless services, WLS started the delivery service operations on the 1st of last month. So many of the member libraries have kept their back book drops often during the month of March through May time period. The initial focus of the delivery operation was to get materials back to their home libraries to be checked in and made available for holds and pick up as part of the contactless services. Now, WLS provided all member libraries with access to the curbside delivery using a model known as Capira. I'm sure Tom will give us a little bit of that. But that app, I understand, from what I hear, the director say it seems to be working well. I don't have no direct experience of that. But this model allows patrons to easily schedule their curbside delivery transactions at a library. And this app is being operated, I understand, by a company known as Capira Tech, which provides a quick overview of the curbside delivery features. WLS also purchased additional delivery totes and dollies to assist member libraries in the movement and temporary storage of materials in support of the new safety protocols and quarantine practices developed by each library as part of their reopening safety plans. The scheduled date to return the holds the requesting process back to its normal setting that allows patrons to place a hold on the items at the library is set for July the 1st. Providing access to the inside of the library for a limited range of services has already occurred in many of our libraries, and in most libraries preparing to do so as soon as this COVID virus situation is under control. So in addition to taking extra precautions to ensure public safety, library directors have had to rethink their staff activities and schedules in order to maximize staff safety as well. So to help library directors, to keep library directors and staff informed about what contactless service and on-site access options are available at each of the member libraries, an information sheet has been prepared. So that seems to be assisting the library as well to deal with this reopening issue. So I could say that as far as reopening is concerned, many of our libraries are very much involved in this exercise, and the directors meet every week. In fact, we met this morning to discuss that, and they share experiences that they're going through, and each library has its own plans and time to open and how long patrons can stay in, and whether they can hold books and how to quarantine books and all kinds of things. So it's a complex operations these guys are engaged in. But in any case, the reopening exercise is going on pretty well. Now, as far as the reopening of the WLS library headquarters is concerned, the office space it was scheduled to open on Monday, June the 6th, and I think it was open. I haven't been there myself. And the reopening safety plan outlining new procedures and protocols have been shared with all the staff in preparation of our transition to the hybrid environment where some staff work from home and others work can come to the office for a minimum period of time. And also visitor access to the office in Amsford is limited, and there are no on-site public programming activities at the moment. The interlibrary delivery service is also ongoing, and understand that is proceeding pretty well. The cataloging services have been ongoing throughout the pandemic, with most vendors and member libraries providing their cataloging staff and electronic records that are updated and enhanced before they are added to the catalog. There's also a certain quarantine of materials that are handled by the patrons. And the WLS is imposing a period of 3 days, 72 hours for the quarantine period for all these materials that may be affected. So that is as far as the reopening is concerned, both for the libraries and WLS. Now, like every institution in the area, the WLS has been quite seized with the issue of racism and systemic discrimination in society, etc. You're all well aware of that. So in collaboration with the public library directors, WLS created and posted a statement on that, essentially condemning violence and systemic racism that is based on color. So if you look at the website, you will see the statement there. On finance, there's quite a bit of concern there, a bit of nervousness there because of the situation we're in now. Local governments in the state are losing revenue. Yesterday I was on the Rotary virtual meeting where the county executive reported on this, and it was quite clear that they're losing quite a bit of revenue, and that's going to affect what the county can give in terms of aid to the libraries, and also in maintaining their own staff. And this applies also to the state. So WLS is bracing for a considerable reduction in whatever assistance it can get. The county has provided the first and second quarter payments to WLS, but there's been no confirmation about what the state funding allocation is for the fiscal year 2021. And a minimum, at least at a minimum, we are expecting, or at least planning for a 20% reduction, which is approximately $400,000 in WLS allocation. As far as assistance for the construction aid is concerned, that is also uncertain, and that's affecting the libraries. It's quite a bit. The awards for the construction aid program cycle for the year 2019 to 2020 has not yet been announced. But I understand that as soon as a decision is taken on that, the applicants will be notified. But the feeling is that there might be a considerable reduction in that as well. My last point is about the audit report regarding IT operations, which affects the network services and EDI. As you know, reported in previous occasions, a team of experts have been engaged to look into this. Their report is almost ready. So a small working group consisting of some members of or the PLDA and the board has been formed to look into these reports, which should be finalized by the end of this week or early next week. The arrangement today has been, and this by Executive Director Terry, that the audit reports would be discussed at this working group, pre-digested, and then a kind of way forward would be charted, and then the end result of that discussions would be presented to the wider audience of the entire WLS board of trustees, as well as the directors. That was the arrangement up until this morning. But the feeling among the directors this morning, including our own directors, that there should be a transparency in this, and that the audit report should be immediately made available to the directors, even if a working group is working on it, so that nothing is filtered out. Since this is a report that affects them, they would like to know clearly what is recommended and the way forward. So that is where we are. And the directors felt pretty strong about it, to the extent that they even passed a resolution this morning asking that this be the case, that the report, the audit report, should be made available to them directly. And I think Terry will be complying. I sent him an email this morning and saying that although the meeting was a little exciting this morning, I think it would be good to comply with the wishes of the directors, and I think he intends to do that. So that's an overview of what we are at the moment. The situation is a bit rough, but I think the directors are doing the best they can, and so is the board. And as the saying goes, together we will go through this.
Thank you, Francis. Deirdre, could I just add a few words to Francis's report?
Yes.
Yes. As Francis indicated, today our weekly county directors meeting was pretty exciting, where there was almost uniform concern regarding the fact that the plan that Terry Kirshner, the executive director, had presented was one in which the 3 audit reports would not go to the library directors or to the library boards, but would go to this working committee of staff, a few WLS board members, and a few county directors. We were under the impression the report was going to go to us and we could share with our boards. There was a misunderstanding. And so, as Francis said, there was a nearly unanimous resolution asking Terry to share the documents to us while the working committee continues, because the thought was, because we're the group that forced the issue and started the ball rolling in terms of addressing the problems that WLS was experiencing, and as a result we were experiencing, we felt that it was very problematic for us to sort of see a version of this report, edited. There was the comment Mueller report, which maybe is not entirely fair, but nonetheless, we thought it was extremely important that we see it. And so we're hoping that it will be shared with us, and I will share it with all the board members as well. And I just want to mention, Francis, the Capira app for curbside delivery is still basically in the beta testing stages as well. And I'm not sure that a lot of libraries are using it at this point. We looked at it and thought it was not user-friendly. We thought we could handle it and make it more efficient, by managing it ourselves in-house. And as Francis said, libraries are nearly all providing curbside service and are now starting the process of reopening, which I would like to discuss later on this evening. So thank you.
Well, thank you. So I have my president's report, and I'm going to actually, at the end of the agenda, you'll see it talks about nominations. I'm going to do that now. And And I'm also going to talk about one more thing. As we see, the city has started reopening, but interestingly enough, construction seems to be going like it was, all the development stuff. And so I actually did reach out to Tom, and I asked him to reach out to the team at the development office in New Rochelle, just to see where everything is in terms of the buildings that are going up around us. I don't want to kind of be left not knowing what's going on. I also asked Beth, who has some inroads in this area, to also look into stuff. So she's not on the call today, but I do think she's going to, or I will report back on what I learn. And I don't know, Tom, if you had a chance to reach out to Kevin and he said anything. Tom, did you have go ahead.
I did not. And
okay.
Frankly, my excuse is, I'm embarrassed to say I forgot, but I will do it tomorrow.
Okay. So I just don't want to be left kind of with stuff happening around us. And we, as as everybody knows, we went to the city, to the planning board, and sadly that was we were past the time. And so I just want to try to make sure we stay ahead of it as much as we can. So I might have a report on that next month. The other thing is, it's time for us to do our nomination. So I am actually going to ask Whitney and Chuck and Corey to come together as a nominations committee to nominate the slate for the next year. This is something we usually do around this time. We wait until the new members have come on, and then we do our nomination. So if the three of you could get together, talk, and then present a slate next month, that would be great. How does that sound?
That's fine.
Okay. And I just do have to add, thanks. Thank you for your service. I do have to add one thing to the committee reports, and that is Whitney is just going to update us on some of the policy stuff that her committee is going to be working on. So just add that to, in addition to personnel committee, you can take off nominations committee on the agenda and just add policy committee, and Whitney will be updating on that. And that is all I have. And Tom, who's looking around, is going to give us the director's report. And I just, he is actually going to talk about the proposed opening. So I really would like us all to have a really frank discussion about what we think about this, what we don't think about this. He's very open to any feedback. And obviously we're in such a, everything changes daily with COVID. The only thing that stays the same is COVID. But as cases go up, we might have to change that. So whatever he reports, we want to stay flexible, we want to stay open, but we really would like everybody's feedback. Good, bad, if it's terrible, say it. If it's great, say it. But, so you're on, Tom.
All right. Thanks, Deirdre.
Yeah.
Just two housekeeping matters. First was I had sent to the board, I believe yesterday, the latest iteration of our membership roster with contact information. I know Whitney had said her information's correct. I would ask all of you just to double check to make certain that it is correct. Let me know, send me an email, any changes we can make, and then we will make it available to all of you. So that's a simple one, and thank you very much. The other housekeeping matter is the library board schedule for this fiscal year, 2021. I have sent out previously meeting dates, asking you to check and see if they work for you, if they're appropriate, if they're correct. And I think I found the April meeting date was mistaken. I think I listed April 14th, and it should be the second Thursday, which was April 8th. So I apologize for that. But I would ask you to look at these dates. I don't know if you've had a chance. We could agree to vote on them in August. If we have an August meeting, I assume we will. Any thoughts?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the one thing we didn't talk about, Tom, is I'm sorry, I meant to talk about this, whether we're going to have in person or not. Right now, we're not allowed to, but there was a chance that we were going to be allowed to. So again, it's shifting, but that's something that could happen. But I want to be sensitive to everybody. I don't know how comfortable people are with coming into the library. So if it does happen, we as a board will have a conversation. I commit to you that we'll have a conversation first.
Right, the governor had extended the open meetings law to allow for remote meetings. And I believe the extension is through August 5th of this year. And our next is August 13th. Now I have no idea, no one does, of course, if there will be an additional extension. I suspect there will be, but I'm not certain. And if there's not, then I guess we would be obligated to have a live meeting. Now, it could be a meeting with no audience and with the audience having access in this manner. But at this point, you know, we may well have that meeting in August if we decide to do so.
So just go ahead, Dan. Who is that?
No, that's me. As far as my board is concerned, we have our next meeting will be in September.
And
no meetings July and August.
Right.
I mean, I'll just chime in. I don't know if you're asking us to chime in, but I don't have any particular concern as long as we practice appropriate, you know, distancing and the like. So, and if we have audience members, that we just space people out in the auditorium and, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I don't have any aversion to meeting in person. I would like to see all of you sooner rather than later, but that's my point of view.
Yep. Okay.
Obviously acknowledging that it's a fluid situation. So if we woke up tomorrow and there was or the next 3 days, there was an increase in cases in the county, then I'd probably have a different opinion. I think we have to be flexible.
I'm pretty flexible.
Okay.
I can go either way too. I'm flexible.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So we've gotten that out of the way. In terms of what I'd like to talk about, I'd just like to mention something that Deirdre and I have been working on, and we've received or had absolutely no success, and that is our desire to have the Ruby D Library Green kiosk bathrooms open. We were working with the City Parks and Recs Department. They had no plans to open that facility, even though other parks were being opened and bathrooms there were being opened. I can tell you that it is proving to be very problematic for our green users. People are making decisions that are unpleasant, relieving themselves in various areas, including the library property and stairwells, etc. We have had no success, and Deirdre and I indicated that we wanted to bring it to your attention with the idea that perhaps you might have some ideas how we could, you know, encourage the city to address this real need.
So I want to say, Chuck, one thing, just some context. So, you know, our bathrooms are not open. Our library is not open. Last year, we went into this discussion with them even before COVID, because when they have the farmers market, our bathrooms become really the overflow, and we're happy to do it, but we don't have kind of the staff to keep up. And so we asked them, could you, you know, we will support half of this, or we will pay for some of it.
Yep.
Can you open the bathrooms as well so that we're sharing the cost? They said yes. And we had worked it out. We come to COVID now, and I don't know if things have shifted, but now it's actually even more necessary. And I wanted to make sure you guys knew this was happening in case anybody said to you, wow, the library has some funkiness around it. But part of it is because there are people using the park and there are no bathroom facilities. And so we have asked, and we kind of are not getting, we're really not getting any answers now. We're just kind of getting ignored. So I wanted to bring it to you so you guys were aware. And Chuck,
I mean,
sorry.
No. Thank you for refreshing everybody's memory on kind of the dialogue to date. I mean, is it helpful? I mean, I'm certainly happy to call like my city council member, and certainly happy to call others. I mean, I think like regardless of the library, this should be an issue that the city's concerned about. They're trying to attract, you know, people to live in the city. There's all this construction, and you've got people going to the bathroom in the only park in the middle of the city. It's kind of embarrassing if I was in their seats, just being honest.
No, you're right.
And so, I mean, I think we should, I'm happy to make those phone calls.
So
and
Chuck,
I don't know if you had something else in mind. I have a new city council member, so I can call him. But
so you can, but Chuck is also, Chuck Ivar is also the city council person for the library.
Got it.
So I would start with him. If you could call him, this is hit, and you hit it on the dot. This is your city. We are the library. We come to you as a partner. And can you please help us with this? I think that's a good place to start. Dan?
I will also reach out as a community relations chair. I will also reach out and speak to Vince and Bill Zimmerman on my end, and as you know, representing the trustees to see, you know, where this, you know, and advocate and support Tom on that front. So I mean, if we can just, I guess, for lack of a better term, attack it on every angle from city council to actual, you know, commissioners and deputy commissioners, then we can probably get the ball rolling, hopefully.
I think it's a good idea.
Could I throw one thing in? If a concern's raised that there's some issue with that physical, I've never been in that little kiosk thing, but if they raise there's like an issue with that facility itself, like the other, I don't think this is ideal, but the other compromise could be like, okay, you say there's an issue with this building, like what about a couple of at least I don't like the idea of porta potties because they're obviously not very attractive, but those are obviously serviced by a third party. Nobody has to worry about cleaning them. They get cleaned by the vendor, and you know, they could get changed very regularly. So I'm just trying to think out loud, if there's a pushback about just the build that facility itself, that could be maybe a temporary measure.
I mean, Chuck, yes, though we went through this and agreed that it would work. So so if they come back, if they come to us and push back now, then they've changed this. Then they've changed the story. So
I've never seen the bathrooms in that facility. I've been in the facility. I've done events for the bid and Parks and Rec, the actual kiosk where they store. But I'm assuming the bathrooms are on the side, Tom.
Yep.
It's not. They are, right?
They're there.
So, okay. So I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't see why not. But I think that we can continue to explore that. I think for now, the reason for COVID, I think my understanding is that the recommendation that bathrooms should be sanitized every 15 to 20 minutes. So I think that would probably be an issue right now of trying how or whom, you know, those bathrooms would be sanitized on a consistent basis now. But it's, again, something that we can discuss and come up with a plan.
That would be my hope, that even if there are issues, we talk through them and work through them, but we don't just stall, because it's not, you know, we don't have a solution now.
Right, and the library is not seeking to have a solution put in place without the library contributing financially. There was an agreement. We certainly agreed to cost share. We thought it was certainly well worth the monies that were asked to make it happen. And now more than ever, as you all know, it's truly crucial. Even when we reopen, we will not be open the hours that we were prior to COVID-19. And so the need will still exist even after the facility is open and the restrooms are available to the public.
Hello?
Yes?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think is like to note that this is not only probably unique to our libraries. All the other libraries are facing the same problems, even more acute. And some of them have taken very rigid positions. The toilets are closed and that's it. You know, you do whatever you want. But tribute to our board, I think we are beginning to find, we like to be flexible and find a way out to address this instead of taking a rigid position. Just for what it's worth.
Agreed. Okay, I'd like to talk about some statistical issues, some performance issues, all really looking wonderful as our staff has really stepped up to find a way to serve the public even though the building is closed. As you folks know, we started curbside service at our main library on June 15th, and I'm happy to announce we will begin curbside at our branch library at the Huguenot Children's Library on July 20th. And curbside at main library is essentially 6 days a week, not every hour, but large blocks of time. And we've met with a good amount of success. A lot of members of our community have been appreciative, and people in surrounding communities, particularly Mount Vernon. I can tell you that we've had 240 curbside transactions since June 14th. We've loaned out just over 1,400 titles. And since the Westchester Library System restored interlibrary service, we have loaned to our fellow libraries 954 titles, and our residents have requested 180 titles. Our staff has been incredibly busy pulling books to send to other libraries. It's really been amazing. The first day when it was open, our staff had 140 pages of requests to send out. So that was really something. But you know, we're on site and we're doing it. In terms of the ongoing stats relative to the new library card applications, as of today, we've given out 400 new library cards, 388 in English, the remaining 12 in Spanish. In terms of demographics, 51.7 have been adult cards, 46.3 juvenile, and the birth year that's been most popular has been 2008. So 34 cards. So our tweens are out there and looking for cards, which is great. We continue to have great success with our thematic e-newsletters, and that's a tribute to our community relations staff along with our library staff. Since March 27th, we have emailed 28 e-newsletters via Constant Contact, and it's been really, really successful. We've been doing all sorts of social media posts, both with Barbara Davis and our archivist, David Rose. We've been doing some programs about local history as well. We've done programs related to social media. So, you know, we're still providing access and service in a virtual sense. Some of our social media posts that were very popular were Carl Reiner, sadly just passed away, a New Rochelle resident, Ella Bell Davis, the opera composer, Judge Keogh, and New Rochelle's many leading suffragists, not getting that right, sorry. Our social media also has been extraordinarily busy with our Twitter accounts. We have 2 accounts, our Instagram, our Facebook. Our performance on Google has been extremely popular, and we've talked about our e-blasts as well. Great success, lots of people opening them. So kudos to our staff for continuing to connect with our community in a virtual sense. It's been well received, and we're continuing to do that, and we will continue to do that even upon the reopening of the library. But speaking of a sort of reopening, the summer is here, and our summer reading games are in play once again. Now, obviously they're very different than years in the past, but you know, we do have this Foursquared app that's helping our young people, but also teens and adults read. They can use some of our ebooks or some of our streaming service books. And the theme this year is Imagine Your Story, and the program is designed for children from birth to 12. We're encouraging lifelong reading habits. They are encouraged to earn points by reading, listening to books, writing book reviews, and completing missions. And the more points that they earn, the more badges and prizes they'll receive. Once they reach 100 points, they'll have completed the game and become 100% certified summer reader. Our teens also are reading as well. It's called Imagine Your Story. Teens from grade 6 to 12, they're being encouraged to, of course, again, lifelong reading habits. And so, again, read, complete missions, win prizes. So all of that is going on. I'm happy to say, you know, we are doing all of that, and we've met with good success. We have pick-me-ups that are available to our young people 5 days a week in the Memorial Highway entrance to the main library. People can pick up these craft bags, and it's been popular, and all sorts of themes and titles. We're continuing to do our programs. We have bilingual rhyme time, which has been really popular. We do our live music programs with Zeb Haber, again, popular. We're doing live story times with our head of children's services, Bobby Simic, at Toddler Time. And we were doing a DJ program that was successful until we were cited for violating, or he was cited for violating copyright rules. So that was unfortunate. Our teen programming is still underway. Our staff is coming up with all kinds of clever ways to engage our teens. It might relate to JavaScript coding or manga maker activity, Marvel Jeopardy, could be origami tutorial, video game coding, 3D printing, photo night light, you know, all sorts of things, and virtual. And our teen librarians, like our children's librarians, are stretching themselves and coming up with programs that we hope that will interest our teens. And we're also starting a new program called Books Forward. And yesterday, I don't have the results. We had a program with David and Julie Ball talking about how families can pull together during this very stressful time and coming up with positive ways to advance extra togetherness. We have other programs on July 22nd, July 29th, August 5th that relates to people taking care of themselves, the teens taking care of themselves, martial arts, talking about technology is another program, surveillance technology, and focused by a sci-fi author, Michael C. Bland. So there's just a lot going on. And of course, the summer reading program for teens are in place as well. And we're doing Teen Summer Con as well, in which if the teens are into the whole comic, manga, you know, characters and storylines, we have programs every week that teens can participate in and get a chance to win a prize. So as you can see, there's lots going on. Our staff is doing a great job. They're taking their responsibility of connecting with the community very seriously. And I'm proud of them. And as I said, once we reopen, we will continue to do this. It will be a stretch because we'll have a foot in both camps, but we'll make certain we do it. And I'm sure we'll continue to do it as well as we have up to this point in time.
Tom, can I ask you about the teen program? I mean, the reading program. Have you seen a drop off, or like what are the numbers like comparatively?
You know what? I've been in touch with Rio Alsena, who is our reasonably new teen librarian, to the table. I don't know. I don't have numbers yet. She fed me a lot of stuff that I shared with you, but it's been so early. I can come back to you and send something out to you and the board tomorrow or Monday.
Okay.
but we do have lots of things available for our teens. And you know, the issue is we have so many great things, but it's finding a way to connect with our teens and lure them in, so to speak, because you know, we're trying to create programs that appeal to our teens, and all teens have, you know, different interests, and we're trying to be as diverse and broad-based as possible.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
I do gotta say that I logged in or saw on social media the whole DJ program you guys had going on. That was pretty awesome. I saw a lot of people tune in. So one of the things, you know, after COVID, is something to look at as far programmatic. I know a lot of young people in our community are really into the music engineering, music creation, music development. I mean, that's something that I think the library can definitely spearhead and continue on with that, just as a programmatic thought.
That's a great thought. You're right. Music just as a way of connecting with our teens. And it was tremendously popular, but we
Definitely.
were notified by Facebook, someone from Facebook, a company that saw us through Facebook, that indicated that the DJ had not secured copyright for this, so we had to stop, which we did not anticipate. But those 2 sessions were tremendously popular. And you're right, Dan, once we reopen, once we return to a more normal world and a normal library schedule, I think our children and teen staff have taken note of that.
Cool.
The next thing that I'd like to talk about, which is something that Deirdre referenced previously, is the issue of reopening the library. And Francis observed earlier that libraries are starting to very gradually, slowly, cautiously reopen. And we are in that group. We have a proposed date of reopening I shared with Deirdre, but of course, I would like to solicit your input too. And what we are proposing is that we reopen to the public as of August 3rd. And our goal is to be available to the public 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, and with limited hours. And what our hours would be for each day would be on Monday through Friday, we would open at 10 a.m. and we would close at 12 noon. And then we would reopen on those same days from 2 p.m. and close at 4 p.m. And 2 nights a week, we would open in the evening, Monday night and Thursday night from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Meanwhile, curbside service will continue. It will be a dual track. And our goal is, frankly, is to encourage people to use curbside as opposed to coming in the library, if at all possible, given the concerns regarding COVID-19. And on Saturday, we are proposing to be open as well. We are saying that we'll be open from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, I've shared with you the schedule, and obviously we're opening for 2-hour bursts, and then we're closing, and then opening again, and in some instances, reopening at 6 o'clock. And the reason being, A, we're quite concerned about keeping our facility clean. So the thought was, after we closed, we would have a few hours to for our staff, our custodians, and even some of our line staff to clean. And we're also quite concerned about people being in the library for long periods of time. Studies have shown that this is problematic and can foster the virus throughout the facility. And I have to tell you, many libraries are opening for short periods of time. Some of them are not reopening after a period of time. Some are doing longer days, but only for a few days a week. But we thought it was important to be as open as possible those 6 days, but also to be careful and cautious and thoughtful in how we make the facility available. We are anticipating that in this first opening, this first phase, like many libraries, most but not all, we would not have computers available to the public due to the obvious concerns about accessing the keyboard, the screen, and people spending more time than we think is safe in the building. We would have no tables and no chairs, which seems to be a fairly uniform decision. Most libraries are removing them for at least the beginning, again, with the idea that we're not encouraging people to tarry. We're encouraging people to come into the library and really focus on what we think is one of our most important products or services, which is our collection. The opportunity for people to browse throughout the library and find what they're looking for, get assistance from the staff, ask reference questions as well. We are also anticipating allowing the copier machines to be available because that's important, popular. We've received actually lots of questions about two things: copy machines and AARP tax assistance. And as you know, the tax assistance was canceled by the program by the national AARP organization. So we think the copy machines should be open. Now, we are hoping that as we go forward, we would like to relax the issue regarding access to computers and make some available maybe for time periods of a half an hour to an hour in a socially distant manner. But we feel it's important initially to go slow and to not offer computer services at this point in time. And we will still continue to staff the library at a 50% level in order to, again, keep the numbers in the building down. Thanks to our architect, Doug Emilio, we have square footage numbers for each area. We use the formula that he provided to come up with numbers of people in the building, and we are now in the process of looking at those numbers. We'll probably cut those numbers down in accordance with the governor's phase 4 instructions for cultural institutions, which libraries, we believe, fall into. But so we will have numbers for the building overall. We have a great group of guards who will be insisting on masks for people. If they don't have a mask, we can provide one, and they will be counting the number of people that come into the facility. And if it happens that we are at a maximum number, they will ask the patrons to wait till someone exits. At this point, we're not looking to make reservations, but if it becomes problematic, we will allow people to make reservations for a particular block of time. And that's sort of where we're at, and I'm happy to answer your questions, clarify whatever you might like.
I think it's very
Go ahead, Chuck.
Go ahead. I was saying, I think it's a very thoughtful approach, and I'm very supportive. And obviously, we just need to continue to monitor the current situation, and obviously flex it and change it as we need to. But I appreciate all the thought that's clearly gone into it, and I'm supportive. I think it's important that we do, as more and more stuff is reopening, I think it's important that we do start to provide some access to the facility. So I like this. I like this approach. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry,
No,
Corey.
I think obviously everything that you're doing over there is great. I had a couple actually of parents from the high school that talked to me, and I said I'd bring it to your attention. So they were in the midst of doing a reading project, and they tried to find the same book that they were having in the schools that was at the library, but do we coordinate between what's at the schools and what's at the library?
Yeah, actually, Corey, that's a great question. And that has been our goal for years and years. And we've had, the success has been uneven. Some years we have better cooperation than others, but there's a fairly new librarian in the high school, and the English department has been cooperative. And actually we know, I believe there are 3 titles for summer reading, and we have purchased quite a few of them in different formats, both ebook, e-audio, and paper. But what we also did was to work with our terrific foundation, and we gave them sort of a list of all the things that we thought we needed in this COVID-19 world. And one of the items that we identified was financial support to buy more copies of those reading list books, and they are actively fundraising off of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're trying to make that happen. It's a challenge, but
Corey, were you talking about summer reading lists or just reading material throughout the school year?
It was both, actually. It started with the initial was reading throughout the school year, and then he also went into the summer reading aspect of it. So yeah.
yeah, no. As far as throughout the year, we have actually a great teen collection. It's one of our strengths. And speaking of ILLs, other libraries borrowing, we get a lot of that. But anytime there are titles, themes that we need to know about, we're more than open. We're always willing to collaborate with our schools to provide that support, because obviously, as you all know, we really serve one audience. We're in this community, we make every attempt to work together. But Corey, if you know of anything in particular that we could do in addition to what we're doing, I would welcome either your involvement, or you could put some of the folks that you were talking with in touch with me, and then I could connect them with the appropriate staff members.
Yeah, no, I can take the lead on coordinating that, and then the person I'm talking to is an administrator at the school, so that's good. So then I can actually, and also a parent, so I can have him coordinate with the school and then bring that over to your side, and then we can. I don't know. So we've never had like a monthly check-in on what are you guys doing this month, or even this quarter. What are you doing this quarter from a planning point of view? So I guess that may be a good thing to do, my opinion.
So Corey, why don't you, I think that's great. Can you kind of run with that? If
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think the library's willing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have folks at the schools that are willing, then I think we should take advantage of that opportunity.
I'll take lead on that.
It's very, the schools change, the chairs change, and so it becomes very hard. Tom has probably been here longer than a lot of the people who are
at the school
positions in the schools right now, and so.
Right. Okay, I can take the lead on that. Great. I'll keep you posted, Tom, and bring you in the loop.
Great, thank you, Corey. Yeah, no, I can tell you the history is uneven. Some years we have great collaboration. We would oftentimes be in begging mode. Tell us what your reading lists are. Tell us what you have, so we could get, have as many copies available in different formats as possible. And,
right.
We're ready to work with your team.
All right, good deal. Okay. I will follow up with you before the next meeting.
I also think, just in that vein, at the VOE level, there's interest, and I know Deirdre knows about this too. I think there's greater interest in kind of greater collaboration in general between the school district and the libraries. So I think this is a great actual action step that's really concrete.
One thing, I mean, I guess, so I'm a little biased, but I actually think it's an important, one thing that continues to come up time and time again is this book that my mother wrote, Whatever Happened to Bonnet, is about the restructuring of the school district. And it came up at their board meeting, and it's come up again. And I think at some point, maybe special projects could take it on with the library, but it might be good to do, you'd have to ask her. I mean, I'm not going to, but it might be good to do a panel or something on that book, because it's really there's a lot of interest in it. And it talks about, it would be a great way to collaborate the district. It talks about kind of one of the larger reorgs that took place here and how it was done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Great. Yep. And we could do it virtually too, Deirdre, if not in, live and in the building too.
Y'all can work on that person. I mean,
Yep.
Move forward with that.
So that's that's where we're heading. And I appreciate the support I've heard, and I know the staff does. And just as a follow-up to our last meeting, of course, thanks to the board's thoughtfulness, generosity, and humanity, and I'm not just saying that because it really is amazing. Our part-time staff were allowed to continue to be paid, half of the salary that they were being paid while we were closed, with the idea that we would invite the part-time staff in whenever possible, appropriate, to work and to earn wages on top of that. Now that solution has been very popular, well appreciated by our part-time staff and by many of our full-time staff members. And at the last board meeting, it was agreed that the board would reconsider this solution, this decision, and decide whether or not it wanted to continue it, perhaps for another month or so. But I did want to tell you that it is working. People are appreciative. We're bringing our part-time staff in to do all sorts of things, some things that we hadn't been able to do as well, reading the collection, et cetera. So it's really been a success.
Actually, that's
I must say that the plan outlined by Tom is really comprehensive and quite quite comprehensive compared to what I have other libraries are doing. A couple of my member colleagues called me up this morning and said, what's your reopening plan, in New Rochelle? And I said, we're going to have a board meeting today. So now I have an answer to give them. Tom, is your plan, reopening plan, based in some fashion on your own assessment of the feelings of the patrons and how they will react to you, or been under some kind of a pressure of some sort to reopen?
Well, you know what?
And then have you been in touch with the neighboring libraries so that you coordinate your reopening plans together and pretty much the same time?
Yeah,
so
we've been in touch. I have been in touch with my colleagues, the directors of the library in the county, in particular many of our neighbors. And when I think of our WLS family, we have small communities and large communities, wealthy communities, and communities that are struggling economically. But our peer group, which includes Yonkers and White Plains, Ossining, and Mount Vernon, other than Mount Vernon, who I believe they're not ready yet to put out a plan about opening.
No,
but
they're not.
White Plains and Ossining, we're all opening around the same time. We're all opening limited hours. We're all opening without computer access. We're all anticipating keeping curbside in place. So there is coordination. There is a lot of cross-pollination and frankly, a lot of sharing, because this is also new to all of us. And so that's comforting, that we have a standard that we're trying to follow. And it's been, I think it's been fairly successful. As far as knowing what people want, I talked about a survey that we had sent out over a month ago, and we had, I would say, not as much success as we had hoped, but a lot of the responses that we received helped us decide what we needed to do. So we are trying to listen. And as you know, social media is not a one-way street, it's a two-way street, where our community relations folks are communicating all the time, but they're also getting feedback as well from Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. And so all that's being factored into what we are trying to do.
And how do you tend to deal with difficult cases, which there will be? People who want to come in, not to browse at anything, but because of the cool atmosphere in the library, or they just want to have a place to rest for a longer period of time, or patrons who may not want to wear a mask because of whatever, political or whatever reasons they may have. there will be difficult cases. I mean,
There will-
let's not forget that. So how we intend to deal with this?
The mask is a definite. We actually, as I've said time and again, we are lucky. We have a great group of guards who are not staff technically, but really sort of are. And they know that our caveat is, according to the governor's executive order, people must wear masks during all times of their use of the library. And that's a given. And if they don't, they'll be asked to leave. And hopefully they will cooperate. There haven't been many instances from the libraries that have opened. They haven't witnessed many instances where people have not cooperated. There's been a few people who have complained about it, but they've been compliant. As far as people using the library to stay cool, I understand that. I mean, it's been a fairly hot summer, and they will be allowed to come in, but we will not have seating. We won't. Not at this point. I think one of the issues I would like to bring to the board's attention, Deirdre and I talked about it earlier today, and that's the issue of tracing. What are our obligations relative to people coming into the library? It's been very controversial, as Francis would know, at our county directors meetings. Should we be taking the name and the contact information of every person that has entered the library so that if there is an incident of COVID-19, we can reach out to them and also let our local health department know? And most libraries are not wanting to participate. And in particular, libraries that fall into our category, larger communities that have populations that may be undocumented. It's these folks very justifiably are anxious about providing a name, et cetera, in this instance, which has been a problem with the census too, as well. I have an email out to our attorney, David Shaw, asking him what we can or can't do. My sense is that we are not obligated to do it, and I'm just waiting to hear from him. But I also wanted to share it with you and hear what you thought as well.
So the issue is whether we take names, whether in the COVID world, whether we actually take names of people as they enter the library so that we can do contact tracing.
So I've been to several buildings and both residential and even at my site at 95 Lincoln. We starting on Monday, we are going to start doing, and I'm trying to find it in my email. It's pretty much like a self-attestation, a visitor disclosure form. And it's pretty much a self-declaration by visitor. They put their name, person or department visiting or whatever. We take their temperature, non-contactless, infrared temperature, and we ask them 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Have you had positive with COVID-19 in the past 4 years? Have you traveled outside of the country or been in contact? Have you had close contact with or cared for someone with diagnosed with COVID? Have you experienced any cold flu-like symptoms? And that's a yes or no. Visitor signs it, and whoever the staff person that did the thing, and that's for visitors. So, I mean, is that something that we're thinking or kind of? I mean, I just for the sake of the staff, I don't know. It just brings when I saw it, it kind of we have to do it. You know what I mean?
You know what I'm concerned about? Do we have the people to do that? That's a whole job itself.
Yeah.
Do we? I don't know. I'm not as comfortable doing that. That's a lot. That's a lot. I'd love to get the staff feedback. Go ahead, Chuck.
I guess my thought would be if we're, enforcing the mask rule and we're doing what we're talking about, which is opening in limited chunks of time with appropriate time for, cleaning or disinfecting, whatever the right word is. I don't know how this is anymore. Like nobody takes my, name, rank, and serial number when I go to the supermarket right now,
Right.
or if I go to Home Depot. So, and I in a lot of ways, I think that's probably a lot less safe environment than the library would be if the reopening proceeds the way that Tom describes it.
Mhm.
And so, and I do think, like, look, I appreciate, and I'm obviously concerned for everybody's safety involved, but I think if we take the precautions we're talking about, I think this is all subject to kind of things continuing to trend in this, or stay flat to the same way they are in terms of infection rates and what have you in the area. But assuming that that kind of stays, status quo or whatever, I would be comfortable not, collecting information, on people.
I agree with him. He said it well, but I'd be interested to hear what everyone else has to say. I think it's an important thing.
My only feeling that differentiates us from someplace like Home Depot or a supermarket is that we're a public institution and that we are governed, I just feel like there's something to be said for upholding more stringent protocol. That being said, I also agree with what Chuck said. So I think my mind is just going towards the fact that we are an institution, not a corporation, a retail corporation, where I wouldn't expect names to be taken, and I wouldn't expect their interests are not public the way that ours are. And so that's just one vantage as far as whether or not we do something like that. On the flip side, I also agree that we're taking such I don't know if even Home Depot, which is a frequent destination in my family, I don't even think that they're doing lines anymore. I don't know that everyone is wearing masks, and I know that we will enforce more stringent protocols than someplace like Home Depot anyway, and on the other side. So I think I can go either way. I'm not saying I have an answer, or I think that we should. I just think it's just something to think about, that we have a different role that's more public.
I would hate to, so this is something I want to keep talking about it. And of course, Corey, I want your thoughts, and Francis. The library it's a place where everybody can come, free of judgment, free of values, free of everything. And I'd hate for us to start taking names and addresses and it becoming a barrier for people to start coming there. I really would. So
Can I maybe throw out an idea?
Sorry, I mean, taking the names is only for contact tracing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for nothing else. I don't know whether taking name does not have any legal implication in terms of privacy laws. Chuck, I don't know. I'm not supporting it. Huh?
I agree. I don't think it has an implication in terms of laws. I think it's more just like if you're somebody that's here, that's not technically allowed to be in the country, and you have to give your name. I think that if I was that person, I would get freaked out.
Exactly.
Remember,
just like that.
They don't ask that. They don't.
Yeah, exactly.
They do not. Go ahead.
Can I throw out what about a concept? And I know it doesn't allow for contact tracing, but I don't necessarily have an aversion to the idea, if we have it available in multiple languages, of a list of like Daniel, because they're doing the same thing where I work. Where I work, they're not taking temperatures, but they're asking a series of questions, and you have to self-certify. It was basically the questions that you read off. Like we could do that without taking the names. We could just say, like, can you answer this set of 5 questions? And I don't know, that could be maybe a middle ground. I know it doesn't give us the contact tracing, but it does give us maybe an additional step.
I just say that because, to Whitney's point, we are a public institution. So I want to make sure we keep the staff safe as well as the public. So maybe we find a middle ground. Yes, we'll ask the questions and we take the temperature, laser or whatever it's called, just to make sure. I mean, the reality is, listen, a lot of places, there's some places that are taking temperature. You're over 100.3, you're not coming into the building. Simple as that. I mean, and it's it's just to be safe. It's just to be safe. We are still in the process. This is, yes, the numbers are going down, but I want people, the public, to feel safe to come to our public building, and that we're just not like, hey, the doors are open, just come right in. No, you know, we're enforcing masks, we'll take temperatures, we'll ask the questions. Maybe we won't take names, but we can find a middle ground just for the safety aspect of it. And
hypothetically, if someone has 103 temperature, you say, you know, can you wait outside? What can we get for you? You offer curbside service, you know, you still help them. You just don't let them. I think it's a way to protect the staff. You know, we want the staff, they're coming back. These are now essential workers. You know, if libraries are opening, they've joined the ranks of essential workers. And I want to make sure that we're respectful of them. And I mean, I think it's fine not to take names if we're doing other things, like, you know, all the things that Tom has described. And I think that's a smart idea. Take temperatures, you know, take names, but there's empirical evidence right before your eyes that, you know, this is probably not a good idea to enter the building. Staying outside, staying 6 feet apart, wearing masks, even outside, will further protect people, and they can still be served.
I like that. We're not going to deny service. We're going to, like, you know, we're still going to help you.
Adapt. We'll just adapt, you know. Like,
yeah, it's just, I mean, the other piece that you know, and it's in my head, just like, let's say something does happen, someone comes out positive, we would not be able to contact anyone. We just literally would have to go and say, we got to shut down. you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to see.
So one of the questions, Corey, I want you to kind of weigh in on this, but then at the end, Tom, you're going to have to kind of weigh in on this as well, because I asked this at the beginning. When I opened this up, I said this has staff implications. So, you know, Corey, I'd love you to weigh in, and then Thomas, it's coming up in the chat, but I do think, Tom, I do think it's kind of, can you do this? I'm sure you can, because you can do anything. But kind of what are the staffing implications? And then Corey, can you just give us your sense?
Well, no, I'd like to know the economic, obviously, the economic impact is one, but to Daniel's point, you know, I think that having a public building does bring itself with its own level of risk, because you don't know who you're going to get in, because it's a public building and it should be open to the public. But you have to protect the workers, you have to protect the other people that are coming in. I'll tell you, we opened up our day camp and we opened up our pools. All those kids and parents have to get their temperatures checked before they come in, because once they come in the building, you know, we've got to know, like, is this person possibly contaminated or not? Because then that brings in a whole nother set of issues beyond, Daniel, beyond the infected site, is what happens physically to that person if they're infected, you know, and then you got to quarantine how many people did those people touch? So it does become another, you don't, in my opinion, you don't want to be the hotbed like we had around us, Deirdre, where it's like, hey, oh, you guys went to the yeshiva? You know what? Everyone that went to that yeshiva is locked down. So that's kind of, and I'm sure when the church is open, that's going to be their protocol, because they've experienced it.
Yeah.
And learn from their experience, I think, is what we apply.
For sure.
I have to say, if we were to implement this, and I just want to recap, what you're indicating is that any member of the public that seeks to enter the library will not only have a mask, but their temperature will be taken. If it's over a certain a degree, we'll ask them to leave. We'll ask them if we can help them in a remote fashion. And we're also going to give them a questionnaire to fill out and ask them to fill out this questionnaire, not necessarily sign it, but give it back to us. Is that what I'm hearing, that you folks think would be the middle ground, the best way to go in order to protect our staff as well as anybody else that's using facility?
I mean, that's it. I thought, Chuck, were you saying both of those, the temperature and the?
I was just suggesting I was just suggesting the questionnaire, but I'm not averse to the temperature concept.
Because if that's true, currently, as I mentioned, we have a guard at the gate, I have to tell you, the mechanics, the staffing of this is going to be challenging. We're going to have to up our guard, and we're going to have to really focus on not putting one person under pressure. And if there's going to be 30 people waiting to come in, it's going to take time to have people fill out these documents and
But
take it.
Tom, I mean,
To be a negative person, I'm just trying to think of it in real time.
Yeah.
no, and that's realistic, and for sure. But I'm sorry, but everywhere I've gone, from Marshalls to, and I was just talking to this with friends. I was like, I guess this is training for those people that plan to do trips of a family vacation to Disney World, because the wait times to just enter a store, to enter a supermarket, I mean, it's real. And some people are taking temperatures. Some people are asking questions. That there's 50% capacity. I mean,
I think you need to do all three, though. I think we should choose one, in my opinion. Anyways, I would go with the temperature check just because that's real data, real time.
Yeah.
And it also seems to be it's the quickest,
Yeah.
I agree.
What are we going to do with the attestation? I mean, I feel like if it doesn't take names, how are we going to hold anybody accountable? I feel like that's too much paperwork. The temperatures in real time. And then also regarding staffing, I mean, I don't want to, best, but I mean, aren't the staff that we have budgeted for already? And isn't it just a matter of bringing a few people back, to conduct temperatures?
Could you repeat your statement or question?
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of the staffing situation is that there are people who aren't with working on site, but couldn't we bring someone back to do that role, take turns, alternate of, taking temperatures. It doesn't take long. It takes 30 seconds. So, and you do an hour and then the next person does an hour and then, I just don't, to my mind,
maybe
I don't know if our union would agree to, no one's job description includes
right.
what you described. And
Yeah,
frankly, I would be very surprised if our union didn't raise an objection. And
That may be.
We couldn't have the security guards couldn't do that.
Yes,
Oh,
that's why Tom
absolutely. We
saying
have
we might need to hire more. That's why he's saying we might.
I see.
So,
I
Tom,
see.
can I make a suggestion? This is definitely a change in what you and I have talked about in terms of staff level. So instead of putting you on the spot right now, can you come back to us? I mean, obviously you will have opened by then, so we're gonna maybe have to have a special meeting, or maybe you can come back to us in an email. But I don't want to put you on the spot with how to solve this right now. Maybe come back to us, because you and Jean are actually very good at that. And come back to us with what you think, how you think this could work.
yes,
But you can't use the part-time staff. You can't use civil service. I agree that that's not a solution.
Yeah.
That's
no,
not.
unfortunately not.
Yeah.
We have flexibility, but I think that would be stepping over a line.
Yeah.
But, give me an opportunity to think about it, talk with Jean, but also my department heads. And we'll come up with something, and I'll share it with you first, Deirdre, and then I'll share it with the board. And then maybe we can have a dialogue that talks about what seems to be the best solution. And frankly, I'm still waiting to hear from our attorney.
Yeah.
Because I think having a legal point of view is crucial.
I also would like to hear what your department heads have to say about it as well. I just would love to hear what they're the one on the front lines. I mean, I just be interested.
Yeah, no, we're meeting Monday at 11:30. I will get back to you all and hear, because they're thoughtful. They have a legitimate point of view and perspective. And I found, we've worked together well during this time. Their counsel and insight has been really valuable. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think finding a solution that they feel comfortable with and that fits with whatever they're enabled to do, it makes the most sense. If temperature taking isn't it, then, I'm sure the cleverness of your staff will shine through and we'll hear some good ideas.
Okay.
Oh, Barbara, yeah, Barbara's making a comment.
I guess the one thing that what the board is saying is, or the trustees are saying, we do want some level of safety as a public building. And so more than just what you described in terms of the break in the blocks so that the place can be cleaned. It sounds to me like everybody, like most people are saying, can we just bring the safety up a notch? So you can kind of figure out how you want to do that, how you want to tackle that, and come back to us.
Yep, I promise so.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer any other questions about reopening. And if not, I just have a few more things to share.
One small question. Any guidelines about access to the library by minors?
Oh yeah, that's another thing we talked about, Tom.
Yeah, we discussed it, and I'll be honest with you, there are a number of libraries that will not allow children to come into the children's library at all, or they can only come in on appointment with a parent. You know, we have an unattended children policy that allows children in over a certain age. I believe it's 11. And given how our library is used, in the summertime in particular, kids do come in. They use the library to find materials. They use the computers when they can. They attend programs. Now, many of those options are not available, but we're of the opinion that if children follow the rules that we set down for adults, they should be treated in a similar fashion, as long as they are wearing a mask and they behave appropriately, social distancing, et cetera. You know, with our limits per spaces, we think we should allow them in.
You guys have something to say about that? Because not all, so some libraries are not letting children in.
At all.
At all. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think, I think letting children in with the parents to me is appropriate.
I agree.
With stipulating all the things we just talked about.
But what about a child that's not with a parent that's 12 or 13, 11, you know,
we have a policy presently, everybody, that kids over a certain age are allowed without their, because they have they go to the teen room and stuff, and you know,
right.
Yeah.
the pre-teen room, and so they're allowed without their parent. So what about those kids?
I think if there's a question of, are they of the age that the policy allows, we can authorize the, you know, the frontline staff to ask the question. It's like somebody's going to buy cigarettes or liquor. You ask them, you know, you ask them how old they are. And I'm not suggesting we like ask for proof of age, but if they say yes, then, you know, they go in.
Right.
Like anybody else.
Yep.
That's what
And if they violate the rules and they don't wear the mask, then we deal with them like we would anybody else.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Other thoughts? I agree.
No, I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Great, thank you. Just moving on, I do want to mention to you that I have been in touch with Doug Amelia, our architect, who of course did our building audit, and he is working on some potential grant program application opportunities for us. The grant deadline is August 26th, and we are interested in the possibility of applying again like we have in the past. We've been very successful. I'm thinking that perhaps this year we may have a similar amount of success, because perhaps libraries aren't thinking about this as they struggle with COVID-19. But I think every year is an opportunity to improve ourselves, our physical plant, et cetera. And I'm hoping that I'll have something for you to consider at the August meeting. With that, I do have a personnel report, and I'll need a resolution for each for two of the items, and I also have an announcement. As far as our office assistant position that has been vacant since the retirement of our office clerk, Mary Kane Pasacreta, we interviewed and made an appointment. Her name is Jessica Torres, who you all know. She's been working with us for many years. She's done a fine job. She was indeed the best candidate. And so we offered her the position, and she will start on June 16th. So I'm asking you to pass a resolution allowing us to hire Jessica Torres at the position of office assistant to bilingual, a start date of July 16th in this year, and she would be starting at a salary of $49,865.
I support that.
You got to make a resolution.
I
Are
mean,
you actually going to do them all at the same time?
Okay, I could do the next one too. The next announcement, happy news, like our news about Jessica, is that we had made a decision to create a head of the Huguenot Children's Library, a librarian too, working under Bobby Simic, who is the head of Children's Services in both buildings. It was an internal promotion. It was tough because we had another fine candidate, but we decided to hire Susan Moorhead, and she will be a librarian too, in charge of the Huguenot Children's Library. Her start date is also July 16th, 2020, and she will be starting at a salary of $67,535. So I would ask for a resolution supporting both of those appointments.
Okay, so Chuck, now you go.
I make a resolution to support those appointments. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, thank you. And lastly, I have the sad duty of announcing that Barbara Davis, who has been our community services coordinator for many years, I believe it's been 16 years, has announced her retirement. Her last day formally will be the end of December. However, she will be leaving in mid-November and allow the vacation and other times that she has accrued to be utilized. And so Barbara will be leaving us with our gratitude for her years of fine service involved in so many areas in the library, whether it be our communications, social media, outreach, history, local history, just the art gallery, the theater and programs. So Barbara's decided that she's ready for the next chapter of her life. And so it's my sad duty to make that announcement. And as I have reached out to Deirdre and the Personnel Committee, we will be meeting, we'll try to set a date in the near future so that we will be looking at how we can reconfigure this position in the context of other things going on. And also the other resignation, the retirement, is of another fine employee who has worked for us for well over 20 years, and that is Roxanne Mapp, who is a librarian, but also our graphic designer. She is also retiring at the end of the year, and she is also looking to start a new chapter in her life as well. And so we have the loss of two important people who have contributed to the library time and again over these past many years. And we will be looking at her position, and that will be part of the conversation that we have with the Personnel Committee. So that's my personnel report.
Thank you, Tom, and I am sure all of the trustees join me in saying we are sorry to see anybody go, but we are sorry to see Barbara go. She's been such a wonderful addition to the library and has committed so much to the library and to really our community. So we're happy she's getting her retirement and hopefully is going to enjoy life. And she will be sorely missed. And I don't really know, is it Roxanne?
Roxanne Mapp.
Roxanne, I don't know, but you have spoken so highly of her and what she's added. So I'm sorry to see her go, but again, it's wonderful when people can move on to other things, and we wish them the best. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything before we move on, but I did want to just add that on behalf of the board. Okay.
Well, no, I would just like to also express my gratitude to both Barbara and Roxanne, and wish everybody best of luck in your new chapter. And I'm sure you'll land well and get to do exciting things. And your contributions have been noted and appreciated. So thank you. It's very sad news.
I would like to say something.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, Madam President. So yeah, definitely, I was sad to hear Roxanne, but most importantly, Barbara Davis. I've worked with her collaboratively on several projects, and even as a child, she was around, and she actually gave me, which I still have, a small book that it was the journey of Daniel Bonnet, believe it or not, a story of a Huguenot. And I still have that book. Wow. And so I want to thank her for not only inspiring young people like myself, but also continuing on her effort with the senior citizens, the children of our community, the youth, and the programs of her dedications on Saturday programming and everything. So thank you, Barbara, for everything that you've done for the city, for the library, and for the community.
Yeah, I hope, Barbara, you stay in touch, and look forward to seeing what you're doing next. And we talk anyway, but.
So I am going, does anybody else want to say anything before I move on? So, so last time we did say we're going to check back in about part-time staff, and Tom said it's working. And so I would just ask that we affirm again, I don't think we need to take a vote, but that we just affirm that we would like to continue along in the same format with part-time staff, and we will check again in 30 days. But before I do that, I need everybody's thoughts on that. It's just, does everybody agree? If you don't agree, that's fine. Let's kind of talk it through. Well, Daniel, you're frozen, so I don't know if that means you.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree, definitely.
Okay. Okay, so Tom, keep doing what you're doing, and we are very thankful that you and Jean came up with such a creative solution, and please continue doing it.
Thank you, board. It's wonderful. It's really great. It's setting an example for the rest of the libraries in the county and a lot of other organizations and institutions. Thank you.
Our pleasure. And the only other committee report, we don't have any other committee reports at this time, unless, Daniel, do you have a community relations report?
No report as far as community relations. It's just, I guess just to say that the city of New Rochelle, Parks and Rec, for anyone who's on or no families, food distribution continues on. So the school district stopped distributing food. Parks and Rec took it over. Several locations are giving out. Hope Community Services, 95 Lincoln, Heritage Homes, Bracy Apartments. And that's pretty much it. There's a lot of programming and stuff for young people that are happening with Parks and Recs, the pop-up activities for families. So those are pretty cool. Definitely check the website of the New Rochelle Public Library for what, Tom was talking about earlier for the teens and other programming. And it's just, that's it.
Okay. And as far as personnel committee, like Tom said, we will be meeting to kind of talk about reorg and how that, how we'll move forward with the open positions. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Whitney, just a policy committee update. And then also, Whitney is also going to update us on our committees.
Sure. So every year after the election, we have a committee assignments, and I can just share quickly who's on what committee. I just sent them out. I just sent it out today. So we have 7 committees. We have a budget committee, policy committee, community relations, special projects, buildings and grounds, personnel, and then our finance, treasury, and audit committee. I can just tell you who's on the committees. Does that sound fine? Yep. Okay. So our budget committee is Chuck, Whitney, that's me, and Deirdre. Our policy committee is
Whitney, is the first person you're mentioning the chair of that committee?
I actually, you know what? I haven't assigned chairs yet,
Okay,
so
all right, cool.
so thank you. I meant to put an asterisk on the
Gotcha.
chart that I sent out. So I actually need to make sure that everyone will chair one of the 3 committees that they sit on. So that's how we do it. So do you want me to wait to do this until we have chairs, or does it matter?
No, I think you can tell people so we can start working.
Sure.
I also think, I mean, you guys can give me some feedback on this, but it might be that committees, with the acknowledgement that everybody has to chair a committee, it might be that committees can pick their own chair, knowing that everybody has to be one. Can we do that? Can we all kind of pick their own chair?
Yeah, but then you get into a conflict on that, because if I meet with, let's say, Whitney, Daniel, and I, and we go, okay, Whitney, we want you to be the chair. But then Whitney meets with Deirdre, Chuck, and you go, hey, Whitney, you be the chair.
I think that.
And then
Yeah,
Whitney,
let me just assign them, and then and then we can work it out after if it doesn't make sense. But I think that's what Yadira did. She would always just assign.
Yeah.
And I'll just try to do it based.
Yeah, I think that works
we
best.
can do that, but I actually think I think it's better for committees. I'm just saying, in terms of buy-in, in terms of people's time, in terms of people's desires, I always think it's better for people to figure out who their chair should be. You can do that. I would say next year I won't be president, and you can do it differently, but I would think about allowing people to pick their own
Why
chair.
don't we try that? We could run into conflicts, but we probably won't for the most part. So why don't we just try it for this time? I think that's fine. I'm agnostic. I was just doing what Yadira did. So WWYD, what would Yadira do? So yeah, so that's fine. I don't mind either way. But let me just quickly read through this. Policy is me, Corey, and Sarah. Community relations is Daniel, Sarah, and Beth. Special projects, Deirdre, Whitney, and Corey. Buildings and grounds is Chuck, Sarah, Beth. Personnel is Deirdre, Daniel, and Beth. And finance, treasury, and audit is Daniel, Chuck, and Corey. And then I sent out a list showing who's on what. So you all have that. I do see that Corey made me realize I do have a typo, so I'm going to resend the document at some point later, but that's good to go. Any questions on that?
No, other than I might at some point ask that every committee meet between now and like September, or just have a phone call about what you see. I'm going to ask that between now and September, every committee try to meet and just have a sense about what you think is coming up in the next year that you guys are going to be kind of working on, or what's under your plate. So,
Cool.
when you send that out, if people could just kind of, meet with their groups.
Well, I think the one benefit, and maybe the one benefit to assigning a chair, is that person knows that before they meet they're responsible for reaching out to schedule something. So maybe I'll just assign a outreach person per committee, and then the committee chair can be selected after that. How's that? Okay, good. Two other things related to policy. We don't have a policy to read or vote on tonight, so I hope that August or September we will, after the policy committee meets. Wait, who's on the policy committee again? It's Whitney, Corey, and Sarah. So after we meet, we will be discussing clarification to our policy regarding appointments to the board when a trustee steps down for any reason. There was a little bit of confusion. We want to make it crystal clear, so we'll be clarifying that. And the other thing is related to a social media policy that we currently don't have, but We just want to ensure that all of us, that's our staff, that's our patrons, and our board members themselves, all of us operate with integrity, and that the library as an institution continues to be regarded as an open and welcoming and inclusive space. So for that reason, we're developing policies around that, and you know, it will cover staff and trustee activity and patron activity on social media. And we're looking at other examples enacted by Westchester libraries to help guide us and make sure that we're kind of covering our bases. So we just want to make it very clear that, you know, each of us as elected officials, we take our role seriously, that we conduct ourselves with professionalism, integrity, and dignity, and that we represent the library. We represent, honestly, we represent each other. The things we say and do online have an impact, and we need to be mindful of that in everything we do and make sure that that's reflected. So we will be working on that as well, and we'll be able to report back.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you.
We have now moved to, is there any, before we go to the next part, is there anybody else who, from a committee perspective, has anything to add? No?
Nope.
Okay, we are at public discussion. So what I will do is I will, when people raise their hand, hopefully everybody knows how to raise their hand. I will give you time to speak, and you'll have 2 minutes. And can somebody time them for me?
I'll do it.
Thanks. You'll have 2 minutes, and we will go. So I only see one hand raised. So if you don't know how to raise a hand in the chat, if you could just, if you don't know how to raise your hand, if you could just let us know in the chat, and we'll get to you. Okay, our first speaker is Marjorie Sachs. Oh, I promoted her.
Hi. Okay, so it's been cut down to 2 minutes?
Yeah, I don't know why I said 2 minutes, actually. You want 3 minutes? Take 3 minutes.
I think it was 4 minutes, isn't it? Anyway, I'll try to be fast.
No, if you need to take 4 minutes, take 4 minutes.
Okay. I want to congratulate Corey Galloway and Charles Burke on their election. Very happy to have you continue on the board, and also to congratulate Sarah, I think her last name is Cullen, on the birth of her baby boy. And to also thank Barbara Davis and Roxanne, I don't know her last name, for all their decades of service. I know you were talking about the Zoom, maybe having an in-person meeting in August. I would just like to ask that, given our new experience with Zoom, especially for those of us who attend, who many of us are over 60 years old and at higher risk, if Zoom could continue even if you do in-person meetings.
Okay.
I think that's something that a lot of organizations are considering. Also, Deirdre, I really appreciate your forethought in terms of speaking with the development office in the city about the different projects going on. And I know I may sound like a broken record, but I would really encourage you all to be proactive in terms of protecting the parking lots that are adjacent to the library and across Lawton from the library. I think the more you advocate for that land to continue to be owned by the city, I think it's really important. I also really, really appreciate what all the staff is doing, and Mr. Geoffino, all of the, creativity that's been used to keep, people involved in the library. And I also really appreciate the board's discussion on opening the library and, having people come in. It was just really wonderful to hear your different thoughts and how you all collaborate and work together. And I just want to mention that Miss Oliver and I had the opportunity during the candidacy period to speak with David Maynor, who was the other candidate, who is a ear, nose, and throat physician. And I haven't spoken with him since the election, but I know he had some really interesting ideas about bringing health and medical things to the library. And I remember way back, and Chuck, I mean, Mr. Burke, I don't know if you were on the board at this time, but when Hannah Just Michael was the president, and I know Mr. Geoffino, you were here, that many of the people who had applied to be appointed to the board when there was an open slot, that I think that the board had felt that they couldn't appoint everybody, but they really wanted to continue relationships with the people who were interested in serving the library. So Mr. Maynor may be somebody who, or Dr. Maynor may be somebody who you might want to reach out to in terms of, programs about health and screenings, but also with the COVID crisis, he may himself really be able to give you some medical guidance if need be, or he may know people who could do that. So I think that is probably all that I have to say for now. But I appreciate, again, I appreciate everything that you all are doing, and look forward to seeing how this unfolds in terms of the library being open. How'd I do for time?
I don't know.
30 seconds left, okay.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Okay.
Okay, so our next speaker is, did I mute? Okay, so did I mute you? I don't think, I got her, Daniel. Okay, our next speaker is Sharon Putz. You're on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, no, I did something. Yeah, I can hear you, but you kind of left the screen. Are you still there? No.
She's still muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
She's there.
Okay. Yeah, no one touch anything. Okay, so really quickly, I just want to thank Marjorie and Miss Oliver, who just happens to be my grandmother, for keeping all of you guys accountable. So thank you guys. I would like to say that, and I know that I could just be being sensitive to language, but with all
I did something. Sorry.
with all of the
Good.
Certainly. With all of the things going on in Rochelle, and I could be being very sensitive to this, I would rather you not refer to children being dealt with, right? As if it's going to be a problem. The young man in the nice pale pink shirt said, we will deal with them. I would rather you not use language like that, considering that there is a very vulnerable population. And sometimes they are unaccompanied that go to the library. And I would also like to, one, keep in mind, yes, I understand that we are still in a COVID crisis, but there are very limited opportunities for children to be away, right? To get out of their homes. And our library, which we know is utilized more than any other library in Westchester County, right? And the library is one of the only places, or one of very few places, that children have access to. So I would like to encourage that if there's something that we can do with a child that maybe not, a parent that might be working, but a child needs or wants to have access to the library for whatever reason, study purposes, tutoring, what have you, that we consider what else can be done with those children, and not the language of being dealt with. I really don't like it at all. Actually, I find it absolutely offensive. So that's kind of like really, really what I wanted to say. Because again, with all of the other things that are going on in the city of New Rochelle, the pool's still not opening, the Boys and Girls Club's not really opening, or limited access. Again, the library is one of those places that children should be able to utilize, and I don't want them to feel like it's going to be a problem, or they're going to be met with resistance when they utilize this public space. Thank you. That's it.
That's it. Okay. Okay. I think I hung up. Are you? No, she's down there. Okay, I think that's it. Is anybody saying in the chat they have any questions?
I haven't seen anyone.
I don't see any more hands raised. Okay. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts before we adjourn? All right. Well, thank you all. I make a motion. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, guys.